Hey everybody, welcome back. Now that we've had a full day to kind of sit and think on it, looking back at yesterday's race at Martinsville and kind of digest on the weekend, we're going to talk about what went wrong in Martinsville. What was the reason that that race was such a snooze fest? And for those of you out there that are saying, it wasn't a snooze fest, it was a good strategy race. No, it wasn't. Okay, don't lie to yourself. Look, the stage racing has all but destroyed strategy racing because they literally had one green flag pit stop the entire night. That is not a strategy race. Okay, Richmond was a strategy race. There was 3 or 4 different green flag pit stops throughout the second half of that race. So for those of you out there saying, well, you know, these newer fans don't understand what real racing is, it's like, no. What we saw yesterday was not good racing, okay? This is a short track. Short tracks are not supposed to be follow the leader and arrow push, okay? So for that specific viewpoint, no, wrong. For those of you that think that you need to have 3 wide and 20 cautions for a good race, you're also wrong. But, you know, that's for different reasons. So let's go ahead and get into it, though. We're going to start with actually Friday night, when we had our wonderful Xfinity finish, and just take a kind of a quick little, I don't know what I want to call it, thought, maybe? A quick little thought about, you know, how that race ended. Obviously, we all were talking about the fight the day afterwards, as we should. That's good for NASCAR, good for business. You know, there's not a negative thing to say about that. But let's take a look at, and I'm just pulling up some die-casts quick as kind of an idea. So got a couple of them set aside here. But so Friday night, we're going to use, we're going to have these two back here. Chase Elliott is going to represent Lanning Castle. Alex Bowman is going to represent Sam Mayer, and the William Byron car is going to be Ty Gibbs. So getting into the corner last night, or Friday night, they get into the corner on the final lap. Ty Gibbs has already lost the lead to Brandon Jones. They're going in through the corner, and Gibbs kind of goes up the hill after getting a bump. So he gets bumped, goes up the hill, and then the car slides inside. Now they're literally packed that tight together, and they come out of the corner. I think there was contact that made him go wide. Gibbs got pushed way high, had to get out of the gas. The 10 Castle drove through, and as did the 16 and a couple of other cars, and they got to the line. Okay, so overall, should the 24 be mad he got hit in the bumper? Sure, you know, it's definitely annoying to get, you know, pushed up the track like that on the last lap, you know, but at the end of the day, I don't see a problem with it because the 48 was able to hold the line. If the 48 had hit the bumper and went high, so there was a big old gap, like that he literally knocked them both clear up the hill, 48 is at fault. But the fact that they were literally packed that tightly together, and the 48 literally stayed in his line, or I'm sorry, I'm mixing the ones. The one, Sam Mayer, stayed in his line. I don't put as much fault on that. Obviously, a lot of people calling Ty a hypocrite because of how he acted last week. That is literally 100% accurate, because what happened this week was far more racing related than last week. Look, last week, going into the corner, he just decided, I'm not making the corner. I'm taking the outside lane, and you get shoved up into the marbles. He should have taken the bottom lane, let Nemechek run the high lane through one set of corners, and first guy to the flag wins. Nope, he said, I'm just going to knock you off the track, and I'm going to take the win. He didn't even want to race him. And that, I totally understand why Nemechek didn't like that, because I don't either. I think, you know, race the guy to the line. You know, he raced you clean, and then you gave him a bump and knocked him up the hill in 1 and 2. Okay, well now you're side by side, race to the finish. First one to the line wins. And Ty just decided, and he admitted this. This is not controversial. He said, I intended to do what he did. He intended to knock him up to the third lane and basically not even give him a fair chance to win the race at that point. And I have a, you know, that's not good racing etiquette, but you know, it's going to come back and bit him, and it kind of bit him this week, but I don't think that's the end of it. So yeah, I don't think that it should have gotten that out of hand, in terms of, I think Ty should at this point just kind of expect that's going to happen to him, especially with how he's raced other people. Now, if it had, like I said, been John Hunter like last week, you pass that guy clean after how many laps, and then he knocks you up the hill, just because it was the first lap where the guy was ahead of you, yeah, I got a problem with that. If you guys remember going back a couple years when we talked about the Joey Logano, Martin Truex 2018 race, I said the same thing back then. I said I didn't like it. I had a big problem with that. I said, look, the guy passed you clean. He took 10 laps to do it, and the very first chance you got after getting behind him, you knock him up out of the groove. You know, you'd forget your brake pedal and just use him as your brake and mash him up the hill. Like, that's not good racing. You know, he passed you clean, and you just decided to use him as your bumper. And that's exactly what happened last week with Gibbs and John Hunter. John Hunter worked, got past him, the clean route on the bottom, and the very next corner, Gibbs sails it in deep, knocks him up the hill, gets side by side, then knocks him up the hill again. It's spit and image, and I didn't like it when Logano did it, and I don't like it when Ty Gibbs does it. So I'm being very, very consistent there. Now, moving into Martinsville this week, we've got obviously a late race restart, which kind of put Gibbs in a bad situation. He had been kind of out front, and it was his race to lose. And I thought at first that Brandon Jones was going to knock him up the hill, but it looks like Ty Gibbs just overdrove the corner. He overdrove 3 and 4, which gave Brandon Jones a chance to get to his inside, and Jones was there at that point. So I got no problem with Brandon Jones winning that race. They stayed out on strategy, made a good call. I mean, kind of won the race out of nowhere, Alex Bowman style, but, at the end of the day, I have no problem. Brandon Jones didn't race anyone that dirty or anything, so I got no problem with that. And as I said, the final lap, I will say for sure, Sam Mayer did get into the back of him, but, I don't know if it was because he was faster, Ty Gibbs overdrove it, underdrove it, I don't know. Because at the end of the day, Sam Mayer did stay right beside the guy he was racing. So it didn't look like he had dive bombed it and just made a corner he had no chance of making. He made the corner like he would normally have made if Gibbs wasn't there. So, if you're a Gibbs fan, you definitely can take issue with it. There's no problem with that. It's definitely, a bump and run. There's no doubt about that. But that being said, it didn't look like Ty Gibbs was hitting his marks. It looked like that was a mistake that led to him getting the bump there. And unfortunately, that eventually knocked him out of the Dash for Cash spot. So yeah, then you get past the finish line. Sam Mayer then has Ty Gibbs ram into the back of him twice. On the cooldown lap, which I don't know why. I mean, maybe NASCAR is going to say something about it, but you can't have that. You can't have a guy trying to wreck after the race is over, because there's other cars out there that have no reason to get caught up in that mess. I mean, AJ Allmendinger almost got hooked, and that should never happen. So, that's just stupid. Don't crash into someone after the race is over. Go talk to him. Which he did. He got out and went straight to his car, but then they didn't. I mean, it looked like they had kind of been, disagreeing, and then right when Sam Mayer went to take his helmet off, Ty Gibbs gave him a shot and walked away. Which, I'm sorry, I have no. The best way to put it is, it looked like Ty Gibbs was absolutely scared to talk or get into any confrontation. Without having his helmet on or some type of upper hand like that, like being around the Gibbs car where all the Gibbs guys were, because, I mean, good grief, he waited till the guy was taking his helmet off so he couldn't see, and then gave him a shot and then walked away. Like, come on, dude. Like, it's childish. And then, of course, Sam Mayer went back after him, which I totally understand. That's totally justified. And then at that point, Gibbs wouldn't take his helmet off, and Gibbs starts throwing punches. The Gibbs guys grab Sam Mayer, not Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs throws a punch, and they grab Sam Mayer and just let Ty Gibbs grab a hold, and Sam Mayer's just stuck there. So I'm still annoyed at that. I hate crew guys getting involved. I always have. I've always hated it. And yeah, they just got in the middle of that and made it a mess. And so, at the end of the day, dude, take your helmet off. Don't be a scared little, child about it. Come on. If you're going to race cars, big cars like this with adults, you need to act like an adult. So, we'll see next week, or 2 weeks now till Talladega. Talladega won't have any of those types of issues, but then we get into some stretches of 1.5 mile style tracks and stuff. So we might see what starts to come of it then. So yeah, that pretty much covers the Xfinity race. Landon Castle got a career high finish of second, so that was pretty cool. Now let's move on to the Cup race. What went wrong? So we talk about it. Chase Elliott leads 180 laps first. William Byron leads 220, and that's your race. Literally, the pass for the lead was like this, on pit road. Coming out of the pits, comes out second. That was your pass for the lead. That was the only lead change of the night. Now, the stats will say there were 5 lead changes. That was during a flag or green flag pit stops. I do not count those. I understand in the stat book they will count, but they don't count in terms of the racing. So, basically, these are your 2 leaders. And once he got behind, it was basically a race of staying about that far back from the car in front of you. And eventually you close in, you fall back, close in, fall back, close in, fall back. And I will say it again, it happened the same way this way. When William Byron was chasing Elliott down towards the end of a stage, got to him, and then that was where he got stuck. He never could pass him. No green flag passes for the lead. Let me say it again. No green flag passes for the lead. Again, the stat book is going to lie and say, oh, there were 4 lead changes during that pit cycle. I don't count those. As far as somebody passing someone else for the lead, 0. That is not good for Martinsville. That is not a good Martinsville product. The tires falling off and things like that, we'll talk about what reason there was for that, but that's unacceptable. That's not a good race. So those people out there saying you just can't appreciate a good race, 0 lead changes under green. That is not good. And that was the biggest problem. The problem really wasn't that it's hard to pass. The problem was that it was impossible to pass. Chase Elliott did have probably the second or third best car all night and got stuck in 10th because you can't pass. He literally was lapping people, got up to Bubba Wallace in about 19th position, and could go no further. And so that is a problem, that you can't lap the car in front of you. You're just stuck there because that's just how it's going to go. So yeah, that's a problem, But at the end of the day, if you really like the race, you have to be a Byron, or maybe now, even Elliott fans can't be too happy, but you have to be a Byron fan because it was not a good race. It was not good by Martinsville standards. It is not good by NASCAR standards, and that's okay. You can have a bad race and not say it's time to tear down Martinsville and destroy the next gen car. But it is okay to say that sucked. Something's going to have to change if we see another one. So they can leave it the same and come back in the fall. And if it's a stinker again, you got to do something. You can't have that. We can't have short tracks being the worst races on the schedule because that's what was really popular with the previous gen car. And maybe that means you got to make some tweaks to it. But if you make the tweaks right, you can have good racing everywhere. Let's make it happen. Now, we're going to move on to why was the racing so bad? What was the problem? Why couldn't guys pass each other? And here's the biggest thing I know. So we're going to put a pretend Martinsville corner in here. And basically from what it sounded like, people said they would have front end wash. So they'd drive off into a corner, and if they were within this far of a car, their front end would kind of wash, take their car turn, and coming out of the corner, they couldn't get a run. There was a kind of bubble of air, of dirty air, and you couldn't round a corner and get a run on someone once you got within about a car length of them. And so that would basically mean you could get in on their bumper like this and give them a shot, and if they held their line coming out of the corner, you had no grip, and they would pull away. And the other problem we had with that is these cars had so much stability. I mean, guys were literally shoving off into the corner like this, hammer, 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 going through the corner, and the guy didn't even move off the bottom. It almost didn't even upset the car. And so you don't want a guy having to literally slam a guy up into the groove high. You want them to be able to just kind of give him a nudge, knock him up the hill a little bit, and slide on under. You don't want them to have to shoot the guy up to the wall. But with these cars having so much stability, that almost seems inevitable. So, as I said on the live stream, let's get these things a little less stable. Let's make them, a little harder to drive, maybe not corner so well. And let's find a way to maybe get that corner speed down because it's not working well. It reminds me a lot of IndyCar because they corner real well in hairpins and stuff. And you notice there's almost no passes within the first 200 to 300 meters after a corner in a hairpin. Nobody gets a run in a hairpin. They just stay close enough to get a draft. But nobody makes a pass through a hairpin like that. Long Beach was a perfect example. Guys could get a big run down the straightaway, but it took a long time to get that run going. And nobody could really exit right on the tail of a guy and just pull below him and start passing him. So, you got to decrease that corner speed somehow. And like I said, I've always said the best cure for any of these problems is when you have a problem like this, throw an extra 200 horsepower under the hood right off the bat. That should already start to help because guys were shifting, which is fine, but they were also not really having a lot of rear wheel spin. They were talking about the fronts being the problem. The rear tires weren't an issue. I'm sorry, it's Martinsville. The rear tires is like the whole point of Martinsville. Who can take care of their rear tires to get a good launch out of the corner to help them make good lap time and make passes? So that's a problem. We need to throw some more horsepower in there. We need to make the cars maybe a little more unstable so you can get a nudge on a guy and kind of move him up the hill. And at this point, if it's diffuser based, if it's something with the diffuser where, if you're too close to a car in front of you, you don't get a good enough air and it really disrupts the car, take the diffuser off because, it's okay to find maybe a short track package that's different. At the end of the day, it's fine. 2 different tracks are going to race totally different, and having a different rules set is not a big deal. It's not that bad. I'm not saying you want to have a bunch of different rules packages, but, the fact is in 20 in 2019, I think, when they, or 2020 maybe, when they had the 750 with the short spoiler and then the 550 and the long spoiler. That was close to what you should be seeing. You should have two different rules packages to make both of them race at their best. There is no one size fits all for different types of tracks. There just isn't. So there's gonna have to be adjustments made. So I don't know. Again, I'm no expert in this. I'm just kind of going on my little rants, but the fact is, I don't want to see the same thing at the Bristol night race. If we get to the Bristol night race and somebody gets stuck in lap traffic, just stuck behind someone in dirty air, for 13th place, not 13th, that's too high. If they get stuck in 23rd place trying to lap a guy, and then suddenly there's just a bundle of cars right up with them, that's not good. That's not super fun. We need to have guys being able to work through the field and things like that. So, maybe there's some other options out there that I'm not even thinking on yet. But I definitely know that something's gonna need to change. Otherwise we're gonna have some really bad short track races. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, though. What do you think was the problem with Martinsville? Do you think it was in the car? Do you think it was the tires, the temperatures, kind of a combination of all? And I mean, I'm never going to blame Martinsville, so I'm not even going to say you can blame the track, but what do you think caused the issue? Put it in the comments below. Also, do subscribe and turn on the bell for more diecast content and random little rants like these, or reviews. This isn't too bad of a rant, but other than that, guys, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Have fun, or we should have some fun next weekend with Bristol Dirt on Easter Sunday. But that'll wrap it up for me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next diecast review.